In the same week when Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of England, passed away, God rest her soul, one Jason Momoa cut his famous mane. Coincidence? I think not. I mean, a Leo cutting his hair. Blasphemy! Let's get into his chart and see what he's made of. Hey crew, I'm Lexi, your local light worker. Welcome to ASTROHUNKS, the series in which I analyze the birth charts of famous male celebrities for your viewing pleasure. In today's clip, we are going to be discussing the birth chart of a man that I think needs no introduction. Unless you've been spending the last 2 years with Jared Leto in the desert, I think that you might have heard about his name at least once in passing, related to maybe Aquaman, maybe Game of Thrones, maybe Stargate Atlantis, and you surely must have heard of him by the time he filmed Dune. The funny thing about Jason Momoa is that I personally always associated him with either Australia or New Zealand, but in reality he is an American actor. He was born in Hawaii, in Honolulu. We can talk a whole day, maybe weeks, maybe the whole year about an individual's birth chart. There's always something super fun and detailed and nuanced that you can discover in an individual's birth chart. And I highly encourage you to make it your lifetime's hobby to try to understand the many intricacies of your birth chart. But in this clip, sadly, I am limited by the god of time, Saturn or Kronos. So what I want to do is to give you the 5 most important markers that truly stand out to me, so that you can have at least a primer as to what to look for in a guy's chart when you are trying to drool over him. What makes the series super fun is that at the end, after I talk to you about these markers, I also try to imagine how he would be as a lover. So without further ado, before I get into the markers, let me show you his chart. The first thing that you'll notice about Jason Momoa's birth chart is the fact that he has a cluster of planets in the same sign and in the same house. This is Leo for him. So we see the planet Venus, Mercury, the Sun, and Jupiter all bundled up together in that specific part of his chart. Now, unfortunately, I don't have information regarding his ascendant, so we can tell the position of the astrological signs, we can tell where the planets are situated, but we don't have information regarding his houses. So we can only maybe guesstimate as to where this happens. But coming back to his Leo stellium. So first of all, a stellium is this cluster of planets. Stellium is just a plural form of the word stella, which is Latin for star. So you see a cluster of stars or celestial bodies in the same sign, Leo, the sign that is ruled by the sun. So he is incredibly magnetic, warm, charismatic, and attractive, because that's what the sun does. The sun is the star at the center of our cosmic system that all the other planets gravitate around. So there is this incredible power of attraction, which makes him quite the superstar. You see that he is naturally born to radiate, to perform, to be a leader, to be the father of the household, to have like a lot of children running around him, gathering themselves on top of him. That's kind of Leo energy. It's like the pride that you take in having a wonderful career, a beautiful wife, and a lot of children that kind of are able to put forth your generational legacy, but also the fact that, you know, it's kind of showing off your virility, right? So his sun is also amplified by the fact that it is conjunct Mercury, the planet of intelligence, quick, fast-thinking information. So Mercury together with the sun tells me that he's quite attached to the way he thinks. He tends to use a lot of I sentences, and there is a certain degree of identification of the self with his thoughts. Now, this is very common because the majority of people born on this planet usually have a conjunction between the Mercury sign and their sun sign. This is because Mercury is a planet that is moving very fast. In case you don't have it, well, consider yourself pretty darn special. So he is naturally intelligent in combination with the fact that Venus is also conjunct his Mercury. So this makes him very charming. He knows what words to use in his personal connections, what to say, and especially in relation to women, because Venus governs over women, beauty, pleasure. He knows exactly what words to say, Mercury, to affirm his identity and his persona, the Sun, in order to have beautiful relationships with the people around him, Venus. Now, because all of these are in the sign Leo, the glamorous sign of the red carpet, he usually tends to have relationships with wealthy, famous superstars. So he tends to be attracted to this glamorous world of the silver screen. And I'm sure that even if he wasn't an actor, he would still attract towards him politicians or wealthy individuals, maybe even managers of clubs that would give him privileged entry. Another person that has this position, although not conjunct her sun, is Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan has a Venus in Leo, and it acts in a similar way to the Venus in Leo of Jason Momoa. I mean, there are a lot of degrees of difference between the two of them, and I can talk about Lindsay Lohan's chart in another clip if you guys want me to. I have another series called Astro Babes, but here, coming back to ASTROHUNKS, I do need to say that our Jason is super attractive because he has the goddess of beauty conjunct his mind, his thoughts, and his words, which gives him a really sexy voice as well, but also conjunct his identity. The way he is, the way he naturally interacts is very beautiful, it's attractive, and it's pleasing to women. Now, on top of this, Venus also rules money. So the way he expresses himself, the more authentic he is, the more money and opportunities for growth he attracts towards him. There might be some karmic tests here with that placement because his Leo stellium sits in an uncomfortable position with his north node and south nodes, and I'm going to talk about this in a second in point number 4. But let's come back to the Leo stellium because we have one more planet that I need to tell you about. This is Jupiter. This is the great super attractor, and it is conjunct his sun. So not only has God and the divine blessed our Jason with a sun in Leo, which is like you win the astrological lottery. Congratulations, you're the best, okay? Now please let us do our own humble invisible thing here in the corner as all the other signs. He is also a sun conjunct Jupiter, which means that this power of attraction is doubled. When you also have a sun conjunct Jupiter conjunct Venus, this is tripled. You're super attractive. People want to sleep with you, no matter their age, no matter their gender. You are just super attractive. We see here a very charismatic personality. We see here a person that is able to attract a lot of good luck, a lot of opportunities for growth, and a lot of just lucky breaks the more he expresses himself. So there is this energy of playfulness, bashfulness, being a little bit cheeky, being a little bit like a rambunctious toddler, which we see that he expresses so well in pictures such as this one, for example, where he's not afraid to make fun of himself, and he's also so secure in his sexuality that he doesn't need to take himself too dramatically or too seriously, which is one of the things I really love about him. The fact that he's able to make fun of this gorgeousness and super attractive power that he was blessed with. Point number 2, let's talk about his moon in Scorpio. So I mentioned previously at point 1 that I believe that he might have a Scorpio ascendant, which kind of amplifies his capacity to attract, but might also provoke him in a karmic way, because people could have kind of a love and hate attraction towards him, which could actually speak quite strongly to having Saturn on the North Node conjunct Lilith as well, which I'll talk in point number 4. But let's bring it back to this moon in Scorpio. Now, a moon in Scorpio is really serious secretive. It's a moon that loves to keep things private. It's a moon that delves in things that happen behind closed doors. This moon in Scorpio tells me as well that he grew up with a parent, his mother especially, that didn't have time for a lot of his emotional tantrums. So he had to find a way to empower himself when he was vulnerable. I think he kind of had to talk himself out of it. There is just a feeling here that he could have been very attached to his mother. A moon in Scorpio is usually a darker moon. The moon likes to be in Scorpio because it's a water sign, it's highly intense, it's full of emotional undercurrents, it's a very sexy placement as well. This is an individual that can feel out what you need in order to reach some sort of sexual culmination. This is an individual that loves to relax by watching movies, by being around cameras, filming equipment. Usually Scorpios are very good photographers. They have an eye for detail because the moon in Scorpio gives you this magnificent power to analyze things and take the world in through the eyes, yeah? And he does have these really piercing eyes that you see so strongly emphasized in Aquaman, eyes that promise luscious pleasures behind closed doors. This is also in relation to the fact that his moon in Scorpio is forming a beautiful trine to his comfort zone, his south node in Pisces. More about this later on. But now coming back to the moon in Scorpio, the interesting aspect is that his moon is not just solitary. It is enhanced by the electric charge of Uranus. So in spite of the fact that he tends to be this secret, private, sexually adept, intuitive individual, a person that enjoys artistry, that loves movies and being behind cameras, he might like control, he might like to be in the role of the director in the bedroom. But the fact that his moon is conjunct Uranus, well, this makes his lunar landscape, his emotional world, the way he rests and his deep emotional needs come across as a little bit emotionally detached, because a moon conjunct Uranus gives you the same qualities of a moon in Aquarius. So he is a little bit scorpionically Aquarian when you see him in private. In front of the public, you see this gorgeous Leo stellium. Confidence, creativity, playfulness, strength. But behind closed doors, he's very scorpionic with a tinge of Aquarius. And two signs that cannot be more different than Aquarius and Scorpio inhabit his inner world. Why do I say that they cannot be more different? Because Scorpio is all about emotional attachment, connection. I need to have you. I want you to be mine. I protect you. I want us to merge. While Aquarius is exactly the opposite of that. I'm gonna give you your space. I want us to be two distinct individuals. Please, no matching outfits because I want to express myself. I want you to be free enough to express yourself. Aquarius is the sign of the detached inventor. Scorpio is the sign of the deep, intense, intimate lover. They butt heads. What these two things have in common, however, is a fixed energy, because both are fixed signs, fixed air, Aquarius, and fixed water, Scorpio, and they love to unravel puzzles, secrets. Aquarius likes to take things apart and understand how they work so that maybe they can re-put them back together, rearrange them, reorganize them, and they come up with a brand new invention that could help mankind. While Scorpio is much more of a deeply analytical investigator. Scorpios don't take things ad literam. They never take things at face value. They love to actually see if a person's words match non-verbal language. They like to understand a person's hidden motives, what lies beneath the surface of what they say and how they act and how they dress. So Scorpios and Aquarius have this beautiful need to prod deeper, to get to the bottom of things, to the core of things. So I would think that he is quite an intense lover. One fun fact that connects very well to this position of his moon is the fact that his wife, Lisa Bonet, is a sun in Scorpio with a moon in Taurus. Now, their moons are not really that compatible, but they sit in opposition to each other, which creates this opposites attract magnetic link. I do think that when they are at home relaxing, one is out doing something completely different than the other one because they have moon signs that are opposite, so opposite emotional needs. However, the fact that her sun is in Scorpio and touching so deeply on his moon in Scorpio, this is the marker in astrology that shows that they might become husband and wife, marriage partners. There is such a deep emotional soulful link between a person who touches your moon or your sun. Now, the way that things work is that the person that has the moon supports the professional goals of the person that has the sun, while the person that has the sun energy is the one that warms up with a lot of exuberance and confidence the moon person. So I think that in relation to his wife, because Jason is the one that has the lunar energy and Lisa is the one that has the sun energy, their gender roles are a little bit inversed. So he might be the one that feels a little bit anxious from time to time. He might be the one that needs more emotional mollycoddling. He might need more reassurance. He might need to feel her close to him most of the time. He supports her professional goals or whatever goals Lisa has at home with her children. If she has family goals, he supports her. If she has professional goals, he supports her. It's a seamless, natural flow. They don't even need to speak about it because Scorpionic energy is a lot about what is understood without words. This could feel slightly emasculating because I don't think that she is able to support his professional goals in the same way because her moon is in Taurus and it tends to sit in a very tense energy with his Leo stellium. So I think that from time to time, her need to rest, her need to be at home in privacy could clash with his need to be out, to be seen by a lot of people, to be admired, to make money, to be adored, right? Because that's Leo energy. And again, we have fixed signs. Moon in Taurus is a very fixed energy. Leo stellium again is very fixed, so stubborn clashes. The third important aspect I want to talk to you about regarding Jason's internal energy is the fact that he has a Mars in Gemini sitting in opposition with Neptune in Sagittarius. Now, Mars in a man's chart shows the type of masculinity he adopts. The sun shows his identity, how he expresses himself naturally, and what his goals might be. So as a Leo, he could have these goals of, I want to become the best in my profession, I want to have a large family, I want to become pater familias, I want to be loyal, I want to be warm, I want to be respected and admired. I want my work to be seen and my hard work to be appreciated. While his Mars in Gemini is the type of behavior he adopts when he wants to feel like a man, when he wants to stand out. With a Mars in Gemini, this is a very changeable, flexible energy. He's not that guy to push his masculinity onto other people's faces, much like, for example, a Mars in Taurus or a Mars in Leo could actually come across at times. With a Mars in Gemini, he's flirty, he's charming. Again, there is that energy that we saw with his moon conjunct Uranus, that detachment, that sense of let's joke around, let's have fun, let's not take ourselves too seriously. A Mars in Gemini spreads energy very thinly on the surface, collecting information left and right. A Mars in Gemini likes to start a lot of projects without actually finishing them. The biggest problem here with this Mars placement is lack of follow-through. A big problem here is commitment, especially as his Mars in Gemini sits in opposition with Neptune in Sagittarius. There is this cosmic philosophical clouding of his inherent masculinity. So he might not take his masculinity very seriously. He's very comfortable making fun of himself, like I mentioned earlier. He is very chatty, very friendly, and he's this kind of guy that gets turned on by good conversations, like laughter, jokes, especially inside jokes, because we have that moon in Scorpio, so he likes people that he's been working with, people that he's known for a very long time, and people that he can exchange information with. Jason is a guy that really likes to gossip, okay? So this is something quite interesting, and I don't think that many people talk about this, but I think it could explain why, for example, he kind of started a little bit of a row with his co-star in Aquaman, Amber Heard, that a lot of the media outlets picked up on, and it was also briefly mentioned in the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. So surprisingly, I wouldn't put it past him to really enjoy gossip, to really enjoy kind of being a little bit mischievous and a bit of a trickster, and starting off these small fires left and right and seeing how people actually then respond to him. It's also the fact that he's a fire sign, so maybe you guys know, maybe you are fire signs yourself, but fire signs have this thing where if life becomes too boring, too stagnant, they start drama just to amp things up, because they would rather have an argument with the people that they love rather than it being completely boring and still. Peace of mind is for water signs and air signs, but fire signs appreciate the struggle. They like a little bit of spice and oomph in their life. So I would say that he is the kind of guy that from time to time, through the things that he says, or maybe the things that he chooses not to do, the things that he doesn't want to complete, he creates some mild drama that then tends to follow him. We're here at number 4. Let's talk about one of my favorite topic. If you guys have been watching this series, you know how much I love to talk about the north node and the south node of the moon, these two imaginary points on the moon's elliptic movement that point us towards past life karma and current dharma, what we were born to grow into, so our uncomfortable growth zone that we tend to be obsessed with in this incarnation, and what we are naturally very good at, what we love to do when times are hard and we like to just hide in our comfort zones. And we see very clearly here on his chart that Jason has a south node in Pisces and a north node in Virgo, and his north node, which is normally in Vedic astrology considered to be Rahu, already a pretty dark, malevolent energy, because Indian traditions believe that whatever individuates you from the collective, whatever separates you from this collective wholeness and consciousness that we all represent, is something nefarious. It's something that will bring a lot of pain into your life. But that's just the Eastern perspective. While here in the West, we actually promote individualism as part of a functional theory of capitalism. You need to be competitive, you need to know who you are so you can market yourself and sell your assets on the capitalist competitive market. So for most of us here in the West, the North Node actually functions quite well. And I do think as well that the North Node is showing the North Star, what we constantly want to attain and what sometimes might be difficult for us to actually achieve. And in Jason's chart, this difficulty is skin deep because he has Saturn, the planet of karmic blocks, obstacles, limitations, the karmic planet that drains you of money, energy, self-worth. He has it conjunct his North Node. So it's going to be very difficult for him to fulfill the requirements of his destiny in this lifetime unless he fully embodies the characteristics of the sign in which his North Node lies in. And that is Virgo. He comes into this lifetime with this Piscean attraction towards the glitzy world of movie making. He likes stories, he's imaginative, he's playful, he's loving, he's a sweetheart, right? South Node and Pisces people are very emotional, but they lack boundaries. They're very sweet and very loving, but they tend not to stick to their responsibilities. So what needs to happen so that he may fulfill the requirements of his North Node is he needs to get into a more disciplined mindset. He needs to actually follow through. When he signs the contract, he needs to deliver the movie that he signed that contract for. He needs to have a daily regime of health activities, working out, taking supplements, going on regular health checks. These are all perfecting activities of our beloved sign of Virgo that wants to take care of the body, of the mind, and of the soul through repetitive work. Not only that, but Virgo is also the sign of working in the service of others. And I think here lies the problem, because with a Leo stellium, I think that Jason's ego can sometimes become quite inflated, especially when he is so attractive, right? And especially when his sun is conjunct Jupiter. When you also have a South Node in Pisces sitting in tension with that Leo stellium, this talks about a lot of secrets regarding sexual and romantic escapades, because he oozes that come hither, come and have fun with me, come climb my body kind of energy, right? He's naturally very sexy and fertile with a South Node in Pisces, but he needs to learn the discipline of saying no, creating commitments, sticking through. Virgos are people that usually marry for the right reasons, and they stick through thick and thin with their partners. If you don't believe me, look at Virgo Sun Beyonce. So this is kind of the energy that Jason is growing into, becoming more modest, becoming disciplined, following through, and sticking to what he promised. No longer being someplace up there entertaining some illusions of grandeur, not relying so much on spirituality and help from the divine, but actually putting in the daily work to achieve his goals. And there was this period when I read some articles about him saying that in spite of the fact that he was becoming more known, he still lacked the financial support to feed his growing family. So there was this situation where I think he became quite famous due to the role that he played in Game of Thrones, but he still lived in a poor trailer and he couldn't send money back home to his wife and children. So this situation emphasizes very well this South Node in Pisces, North Node in Virgo conjunct Saturn duality. A lot of obstacles in spite of his attractiveness, in spite of his star-like quality. He tends to have to struggle through a lot of the things that are naturally granted to him in this incarnation. The struggle builds stamina. The struggle helps him understand the need for discipline, the need to wait, the need to slowly grow into this wonderful leader that I feel he naturally intuits he is supposed to become in this incarnation. The problem that I see there, and it's a relatively minor problem, it's not so big, it's the fact that he has Rahu, or the North Node, conjunct not only Saturn but also the asteroid Lilith. And Lilith is an asteroid I personally love to work with. I include it in the birth charts of my clients. I do talk about Lilith in Chiron and the South Node and the North Node. I love these little nuances that color the birth chart, because Lilith actually shows a couple of things in a person's chart. It shows their tendency to self-destruct. It shows their capacity to pull in a lot of unwanted sexual attention, and it shows how they inflame the imagination of other people. So there is a tendency here to devolve into obsessions and self-destruction. So he has to be very careful, because I feel that if he suddenly decides that he doesn't want to live under this heavy energy of Saturn on his North Node, if he starts to act out and no longer stay patiently following the routine that he needs to do daily in order to fulfill that Saturn conjunct the North Node in Virgo destiny, he might act out in ways that can harm himself. With a Moon in Scorpio conjunct Uranus, and also with Saturn conjunct the North Node in Lilith, his potential for self-destruction is quite large. Now, the final point that I want to talk to you about before it actually becomes too dark and you won't be able to see me in my room is the fact that he has Pluto in Libra. Now, Pluto in Libra by itself is not really that specifically significant to Jason Momoa, because it's a marker of the whole generation of people, but it's really important in order to understand some of the ways in which all the placements in his chart can help him or hinder him in his personal relationships. And relationships are actually the seed bed of his personal transformation, because Pluto, the planet of intense transformation, sexuality, investigative work, childhood trauma, and the planet that actually to a large extent shows how we heal in this lifetime, is in the sign of beauty, women, communication, intelligence, refined things. Airy Venus is super cultured. Airy Venus loves to communicate. That's the primary way in which Libra energy connects and creates relationships. So when you have Pluto intensity in Libra, relationships and communication, he gets a lot of his empowering and disempowering moments in his lifetime from his conversations with women, from his romantic relationships, from the marriage contract that he has. All of these things help him transform deeply into his best, most authentic self. And another thing I need to point out to kind of show you how beautifully relationships appear in our life to mirror some of these things and to help us achieve some of the most difficult aspects in our birth chart. His wife, Lisa Bonet, not only has her sun in Scorpio illuminating his private world, his moon in Scorpio conjunct Uranus, but she also has Pluto in Virgo conjunct, yes, you guessed it, what we talked about in number 4, his Saturn in Virgo conjunct the North Node and conjunct Lilith. Now, when you have a spouse that has their Pluto conjunct your natal Lilith, this is like explosion in the bedroom. This is so on fire. It's what Kings of Leon would say, hey, your sex is on fire. Sorry, I cannot sing, but it's exactly that sentiment. Usually, just a mild ascendant touching upon your Lilith could be quite explosive. But when you have the planet of intensity conjunct the asteroid of dark sexuality, but also personal ruination, you can understand what can happen, right? They can thrash each other in the bedroom and they will still emerge being incredibly connected and bonded. So this is quite an obsessive soul link, and she's helping him fulfill his dharma in this incarnation. I think that they can make each other quite happy, but there is a lot of darkness that they also bring out in each other and that they need to learn to cope and to discipline. So the final part, as I promised you, this is the fun stuff. How would he be as a lover? Well, first of all, Jason would know exactly what is wrong with your body. Where do you need to be touched? What stimulates you? You don't even need to tell him, because he knows already just by scanning you what your erogenous zones are. A moon in Scorpio, just by looking at you, they already have x-rayed you and they already know everything about you. You feel very naked in front of a person that has a lot of Pluto energy or Scorpionic energy. Even if you're wearing 3 layers of clothes, Scorpionic energy will always x-ray your body and will actually find your soft spots, your weakest points, and then start to unravel you until you become their sexual slave. I do think that he is also quite fun. I do think that he might throw in a dirty joke. I do think that he can be quite kinky with a moon conjunct Uranus. He might flip different positions. He might enjoy cyber sex. He might enjoy sexting, especially with the Mars in Gemini. Communication really turns him on. And if we take into account his Mars in Gemini and his moon conjunct Uranus, which makes him act like a moon in Aquarius, in combination with Pluto and Libra, this is a lot about mental stimulation. So paradoxically, even though he looks very buff, even though his comfort zone is the Piscean world of emotions, of let me feel my way through this connection, I feel that he is increasingly growing into this more let me stimulate you mentally, or better yet, stimulate me mentally. I think this is a guy that can get pretty hard, let's say, when he is stimulated by a very witty female individual that acts a little bit detached from him, that can be a little bit cold and commanding. So I think that he's able to both be quite controlling when the situation requires it, but he can also be like a Leo pillow king and just lay back and allow another person to take control. So I would say that he's quite a switch in the bed sheets. You know, he can be quite dominant, but he can also be quite submissive with that Piscean energy, definitely. But I also feel that he's growing increasingly into this come to daddy kind of energy, with Saturn conjunct the North Node in Virgo. So in spite of modesty, in spite of the fact that he takes himself not so seriously, he is a guy that can actually be relatively rough and tough in the bedroom, but also he will allow you to be the same way with him. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this installment of Astro Hunks. Let me know down in the comments below, who should I Astro Hunk next? So all this being said, thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to see you in my next one.